The flames rose higher than the chapel roof. A girl in a cloak dragged her lover through the dark corridor, heart pounding, smoke curling around them like a living creature. Outside, shouts, bells, and chaos. Inside, a body was left in the bed, placed there to fool the nuns. Horses waited beyond the wall, and at the center of this impossible escape stood a woman with a sword tucked beneath her arm, Julie d'Aubigny, a name whispered across 17th century France with fear, admiration, and disbelief. But how does a young woman become an outlaw, a duelist, an opera star, and somehow walk away with a royal pardon? This is her real story, and it begins long before the fire. Paris, a world of golden palaces and filthy alleys. A city divided by the elegance of nobles and the hunger of everyone else. Julie was born into this contradiction. Her father trained the king's pages, young noble boys taught to fight, ride, and survive duels. Julie watched from the shadows, absorbing every movement, the stance, the parry, the cold discipline of steel. Most girls were taught to embroider. Julie learned how to kill. But she also had a voice, clear, powerful, impossible to ignore. A voice destined for the stage. Two talents, both dangerous. Which one would rule her life? Her father tried to control her, but Julie was fire wrapped in silk. When she was still a teenager, she ran away with a fencing master who had fallen out of favor. His crime? Teaching nobles a little too well. Suddenly, Julie found herself living like a fugitive, sleeping in inns, staying ahead of warrants, traveling across France with a man who taught her everything he knew. She dressed as a man to move safely. She sparred in public courtyards and stunned crowds who didn't know what to make of this boy with razor-sharp reflexes. And then one night, during a tavern brawl, someone pulled a knife. Julie didn't flinch. She disarmed him so quickly people blinked, wondering if they had imagined it. Who was this strange, fearless youth, and why did he fight like no one they had ever seen? When a challenger demanded a duel, Julie stepped forward. The crowd parted as she removed her hat. Long hair spilled out. Gasps, stares. A woman? The shock spread so wildly that the challenger hesitated, and Julie struck. A perfect hit. Clean, controlled, elegant. The crowd erupted, and Julie d'Aubigny became a legend in a single night. But her story was only beginning. Her traveling companion eventually faded from her life, but Julie didn't slow down. She discovered a new world, the opera. Her voice, wild, emotional, powerful, was unlike anything the stage had heard. But she had another talent too, falling in love. And one love would drag her into the most unbelievable episode of her life. In the countryside, Julie met a young noblewoman whose family wanted to hide her away. The solution? Send the girl to a convent. Lock her behind thick stone walls. Separate her from temptation. But how do you imprison love? Julie rode to the convent disguised as a visitor. She whispered through the grate. She held her lover's hands in the candle-lit silence. And slowly, a plan began to form. A plan only Julie d'Aubigny would dare even imagine. She studied the convent like a thief preparing for a heist. Guards, doors, the nightly routine. One weakness kept revealing itself: death. When an elderly nun passed away, her body was placed in a small room before burial. Julie saw her chance. She slipped inside at night, heart beating like a drum. Her lover followed. The door creaked. Candles flickered. The world held its breath. Julie took the cold, lifeless body and laid it in her lover's bed. If anyone checked, they would assume the young woman had died. A perfect substitution. A perfect lie. Now they needed chaos, real chaos. Julie ignited a flame. Just one. Just enough to touch the dry fabric. Within moments, the fire took on a life of its own, hungry, roaring, unstoppable. Bells rang across the courtyard. Nuns screamed for water. Smoke thickened until the entire building turned into a flickering nightmare. And in that absolute confusion, Julie led her lover through a back corridor, over a wall, and into the night. Two silhouettes riding into darkness, while behind them the convent burned like the wrath of heaven. Was this the act of a hero or a villain? Even Julie wasn't sure anymore. They fled across France. For 3 months, the world belonged only to them. Freedom, danger, passion. But reality always catches up. The girl's family sent soldiers. Threats spread through every inn. Eventually, the lover was taken away, forced back into the life chosen for her. Julie was left alone on the road she had lit with flames. Accused of arson, accused of corpse theft, accused of kidnapping, with a price on her head. What should she do? Hide? Fall to her knees? Disappear? Julie walked straight into Paris instead, and straight toward her next stage. The opera took her in again. Her fame grew, her voice filled theaters, and her charm filled gossip circles. But her life moved like quicksilver. One night, after performing, she entered a royal ball where 3 noblemen insulted her. She challenged all 3 at once. In the moonlit courtyard, steel clashed in a deadly dance. Julie moved like lightning, striking one, dodging another, disarming the third with a flourish so fast witnesses could hardly explain what they'd seen. 3 men down, a crowd stunned into silence, and one woman standing, breathing hard, blood on her sleeve, eyes blazing. She should have been arrested, executed, but rumors spread too quickly. This wasn't just a woman. This was La Maupin. The king himself heard the story, and instead of punishment, he granted her a pardon. Why? Because even he understood some legends cannot be caged. She returned to the stage. Audiences adored her. Men feared her. Women admired her. She loved fiercely, fought recklessly, sang beautifully. She could break your heart or spare your life. No one knew what version of Julie they would meet, but every version was unforgettable. Her career glowed like a comet, a burst of brilliance burning across France. Then, just as suddenly, she disappeared. Julie spent her last years in a convent, quiet, reflective, almost invisible. Some said she was hiding from enemies. Some said she was mourning a great love. Others believed she was simply tired of fighting a world that was never built for someone like her. When she died, there was no massive funeral, no public tribute, just silence. The world that once gasped at her duels forgot her name. But how does a woman who burned a convent, outran the law, dueled noblemen, seduced audiences, and won the king's protection simply fade away? Maybe she never did. Maybe she was always too impossible to be contained by a single lifetime. And maybe that's why her story feels like a myth, too wild, too dangerous, too unreal. Yet every part of it happened. The truth is simple. Julie d'Aubigne lived like fire, and some fires never die.